Hey, my name is Jamie. I can't play guitar. Welcome to the Daily Hangout for July 9th, 2023. We're going to be watching some videos, hanging out with you all. Sorry, usually we do this early in the morning. Not that anyone would watch us live, but tonight we're doing it a little bit later because we had a packed day. It was my parents' surprise 40th anniversary party up in Ontario, and we had a blast. It rained, but we still had a great time. But I pretty much devoted my whole day to that, so I didn't get up early to stream. I got up early to pack and do some other stuff. But we're here now. We're going to watch a ton of different videos. We're going to finish Exposing My Scammer by Oompaville first. We've been watching that. Let's jump in. We're about halfway. If you want to know, you can watch the other half by going to Oompaville's channel, liking and subscribing, and watching the first part of the video. He's talking about his candy company that got scammed by a guy that's supposed to make the candy making equipment. And basically, this guy had bought stuff from China and then retrofitted American parts, but he was not quite just doing that. And Oompa's about to drop a hot load of info. So right now he's actually been giving the guy a lot of leeway in his story and been okay, this makes sense. He did buy it in China, and told me it was made in the US, but that's still okay. But he keeps hinting that there's a big bombshell he's gonna drop. So let's check it out.
This point, you could tell me at this point it would be ready in 2025 and I would actually believe. The point is, there's just a lot of excuses, a whole lot of excuses. And these things, as I'm being told them, I'm forced to believe them, because if I don't, then what? I got scammed. I don't want to believe that I got scammed. That's my friends and family are getting suspicious. I'm getting suspicious, but I keep moving forward and stay positive and try to find the silver lining, literally just huffing copium. Fast forward to November 2022. I get a $130,000 request from Jake, along with a bill of materials, everything we need to get from point A to point B to launch the candy machine, to get everything up and running, to produce candy, to finally make my dream come true. Jake's having problems with working capital, etc. I check out his bill of materials. It looks good. I double check a lot of the prices. They're all good on McMaster, because I don't trust him at this point. I consult with my friends and family. I say, I can give this $130,000. I have the money. It's the last money that I have. This is the end, in my opinion. I think I should do this. What do you guys think? If there's any more ask of money, I'm not giving another cent. The finality of my intention was made very clear to everyone around me at that point. I wired the money November 23rd, 2022. The point in which I sent $130,000 is the climax of the story, because that was not included in the contract. That is well over budget. The expedite fee, there was a contract for that. I just figured we needed to get this done. $130,000, boom, it's over. Part of that $130,000 was to be able to buy and set up a boiler for the machine. And here it is, baby, the little sweet boiler. I have it still, but guess what? It's underpowered and can't run my machine. Didn't know this at the time, but found it out a little later. And then Jake gets sick a second time. We said to ourselves, of fucking course, he gets sick again right as I send him money. He sends me a picture of the little thing in the hospital just in case I don't believe him. So I believed him. My mom did not believe him. I didn't have a choice but to believe him. Hey man, take your time. If you're actually sick, I would be an evil person if I assumed that this person was lying about everything that they said to me. I don't think it's stupidity. I think it's just trying to be a good person and be understanding and empathetic of someone else's situation. We communicated a little bit through December, and he's got to get his lung drained. He has to get surgery on his lung. I'm not exactly sure if any of that happened, by the way, because here's a really important note. Jake claims that he was hospitalized for this lung problem or whatever, and then at some point says he has 10% lung capacity. So I have no idea if he actually got sick. I'm not saying he didn't, and I don't think anyone should assume the worst, but 10% lung capacity at the very least is an exaggeration. And by the way, I'm not a doctor. I don't know if 10% lung capacity would get you an iron lung, but a study of 20 patients' lung function post-polio, the disease that put people into the iron lung, showed them having a function reduced to approximately 65% lung capacity when compared to a control group. So I'm not saying it's not possible, but if I use logic and reasoning, it seems unlikely. Another request for an update is met with more excuses in regard to surgery, okay?
Oompa, you're making a lot of fans with this video, and you knew that, but...
And this is the first mention of Will, by the way. We see Will is stepping into his role because we don't know if Jake can ever return to physical labor. So, boom, we gotta get Will out there. And then, I know there's a saying, the final nail in the coffin. This is the first nail in the coffin. I saw this text, my heart dropped because I was like, oh, this is actually a scam. This is actually fraud. So, sweating bullets, Jake builds up the courage to ask me for a $60,000 loan. How? Well, he spent all of the money that I sent him at the end of November. I've put my entire life's work into this project, and this man is essentially taking it hostage at this point. So I make a decision and a commitment that I will give Jake no more money. And there's got to be consequences for this type of unprofessional behavior. I tried to see how much of a scam this actually was, because I have to make it clear, I didn't know the machine was Chinesium. I just knew Jake was racketeering. He tries to garner sympathy with these texts. He sends me a list of stuff to buy. He tries to give me, an explanation as to how dire his situation is. I said, I can't help him because I have my own financial stress and I have no money. Then magically the next day, he does, no worries. He figures it out, guys. Don't worry. We're good. Treading water a little bit here. I'm not giving Jake any more money. I just want Will to come. I want this thing. I want it bad. I want it to start. Some more delays though, but eventually Will does show up. And you guys kind of know if you watch the first part, this part of the story. So Will arrives, we kind of figure everything out. We find out the boiler doesn't work, the boiler that I spent 30 grand on, he said, but actually cost 16,000. By the way, I found where he bought it on eBay. And Jake wants me to send him an additional $35,000 now, not the $60K loan, $35,000 for 1 week of his time to tie up all his loose ends, to pay his mortgage, to get his rent, to just basically help him in his shortcomings and in his failures, because I'm desperate. I call him, I try to sweeten the deal. I say, what do you need me to do, man? What do you need me to do? By the way, I have no intention of giving him any money at this point. He says $35,000 for 1 week and probably an additional $35,000 for another week. The next day, I say, hey, Will, how come you and Jake don't know what the fuck's going on with this machine? Didn't you guys build this? And Will says, no. And Will shows me this. Attention, Mr. Jake Fullerton. This is an invoice for a company in China to build my machine, to buy my machine, whatever it is. $124,000 for the production line and $31,000 for the automated packaging machine, which I still don't have. Jake still has that. Plus $2,000 for belt rolling machines and $3,500 for a PP case. Don't know what that is. Total cost $160,500. And this was September 23rd, 2021. And it begins to all unravel, doesn't it, my friends? It starts to make a lot of sense. So I figure it out. I realize that we've been completely scammed. We have that moment with Will. I offer him a job. I say, hey man, you do know this is like a big deal. Like, this is bad. I've been lied to every step of the way. This is a massive case of fraud. Will had no idea. I genuinely believe that. By the way, I am extremely appreciative to Will for helping with all this. He could have gone directly back home to Georgia, but instead he decided to help do what was right and expose all this. He realized we had been lied to. And so was he. He was lied to as well. Call me naive, but I genuinely believe Will knew nothing of all of this. Jake is a compartmentalization, rationalization master of just dismissing things. Radio silence from Mr. Caleb Oompaville to Jake Fullerton of Fullerton Engineering out of Georgia. He knows that I know that he's cooked. He comes up with all these excuses, tries to figure out a way to sell his stuff. Collateral, just a bunch of desperation. I decided to not speak to him for a little while to control my emotions, because I was very emotional at this point. I was extremely stressed and overwhelmed, and angry, but
That's my
also
tactic.
just completely hurt and destroyed. Because like I said, this is my baby. This is my baby. It's my dream. I've never stopped believing in it from the very moment of its inception. Looking back, I did absolutely everything I could. I put my best foot forward. I acted as positively as I possibly could. I tried to act with virtue, which is cringe, but I genuinely did.
The whipping winds of Zeldron.
So now, let's go ahead and expose the scam, shall we? Because this is where it gets really, really, really,
Here's the
really,
juice.
really good. We'll start kind of from the beginning again.
Well,
we
you
know
mean
that
really
Jake bought
bad.
the machine from China. He did not build it, even though he had pictures of it from fab shops around Georgia, taken by old dinosaurs with flip phones, or whatever he said. We know of hundreds of different lies at this point. It all comes crashing down. So many things are untrue. At the very least, we know he didn't build the machine. But when did the machine arrive in America? If it was built in China, the extruder alone weighs, 7,500 pounds. It's gonna take a little while for that thing to get here. Luckily, we have the import data. So this is a packing list from January 2022. I assume this means it's all still in China, right? So it wasn't even in the country until far after the quote-unquote December, January, February. Like, it wasn't even possible. It was never possible to launch in December of 2021 or February in 2022. All lies from the very beginning. The thing was in the air. It was in the air or on a ship. It was probably on a ship. The thing was on a ship. It really doesn't even matter. At the end of the day, we know that everything was a lie. Every single thing. He lied to me. He lied about serial numbers for me taking out a loan with the bank. He lied to the bank. He defrauded the bank. He defrauded me. He defrauded everyone. It's complete and total, unrelenting, evil fraud. So we know it's a scam, but this still is not the end. It gets way worse, and there's threats and just blackmail. It's crazy. Jake finds out that Will showed me the receipt, and that's why I haven't responded at all. Jake gets extremely desperate. What about Will? What did Jake think of Will quitting and exposing this to me? He can't be happy. Well, he wasn't. He was upset enough to blackmail Will and also threaten him. Let's see how that went. So at one point, Will calls Jake because he said he was going to show up to his house, and he didn't want that to happen. And we've got a recording of the call. By the way, Georgia's single-party consent state.
What was your last correspondence with Forrest?
What do you do for the company?
I'm the COO. I'd basically just help try to fulfill any dream that Caleb has.
Put all that.
He was asking, where's the green for the extruder go? And I explained we landed a second separate ground, and the ground in the multi-conductor is actually the neutral.
Was it on the weekend?
No, 2:57 this afternoon.
Okay. All right. Have you told anybody at Off-Brand that you resigned?
Mm-mm.
Okay. All right, cool.
He's trying to figure out why we're not talking to him and only talking to Will. The reason is because Will didn't lie and defraud us for years. Jake did. That's the reason we're only talking to Will.
I wish you would have
This is
called me
crazy,
last
man.
week or over the weekend or something, because I came up with the plan with Caleb. And part of that plan is I secured a dollar amount for pay for you for back pay, overtime, as well as pay for the rest of the month in March. So now I got to go back to him and tell him
Wait,
to
so
put
he
that pay out.
he went forward with that deal?
No, we were restructuring the deal. So basically, I took out everything except for mortgage, rent, utilities, and pay.
This is the deal to have Jake come down for 2 weeks to the $35,000 a week, which I never intended to pay ever because it was becoming very clear what was going on. And this is after Will quit and exposed everything, by the way.
The preliminary steps where I was like, okay, once this is done and you're making money, we're going to wind down. I'm going to dissolve Fullerton Engineering, and we're going to go 100%. Basically, we were going to become the engineering arm of his business.
I mention this as a possibility. If everything worked perfectly, if Jake came down and we had everything running with flying colors, I intended on doing this. I intended on acquiring his business and having him work for me to build these machines. But clearly, things were not what they seemed. This deal was never going to come to fruition.
Did you really tell Cody that you're going to show up at my house?
No, dude, I said that I just needed to talk with you about the things that I just did. I needed to know about the stuff he dropped off. I said he needs to call me back so I could hash out a couple of things, or I need to go talk to him at his house.
All right, because that's... You understand that that can, like, freak me the fuck out.
This call is right after Jake found out that Will quit and that I paid his back pay or something, but he didn't know that Will was working for me yet. And Will was back in Georgia, and Jake wanted to show up to his house to talk to him about something. He was getting desperate. He said he was going to come over there. He knew that the files were accessed. He knew that something was up. He knew that Will showed me the receipt, the invoice that blew the top off this entire thing. By the way, none of the deals were put together. He's completely lying. Do with that what you will. I assume he's probably telling the truth about showing up to Will's house, though. After that call, Will went and grabbed my PLC, a touchscreen controller for my cutting machine that was in our office, that was in our warehouse, that it wasn't there. We needed that thing to make it even run. Jake had it in his shop so he could reprogram it from Chinese to English. That's why it wasn't here, because it was still in Chinese. By the way, it's in my warehouse now. It's still in Chinese. And guess what, baby? We can read it. We memorize. Will brings back this piece of my machine that I own. Jake gets very, very, very angry. He finds out. He sends Will this message. Yo, read your NDA. If you're not gonna read it, you're digging yourself a really, really big hole. My warehouse camera system has worked since I moved in. My dirty little secret. I updated it to 10 terabytes last year and it has everything from when I moved in. I got you on Saturday and Monday night and you know what I'm talking about. You were logged into the Corp Gmail account on your devices, which happens to have forensic reporting on all action. Your contractual obligations under the NDA do not about your underlying reasons for why you breached. Doesn't matter if you are doing the right thing or if you quit. You cannot take company information in any form and divulge it to anyone. Newsflash. An NDA doesn't protect you from committing crimes. Are scams illegal? I don't even know at this point. You took company assets without authorization from the warehouse. Your reasoning behind this does not matter. They belong to me until either I authorize them to be delivered. My contract for the production line was between FE and Off-Brand, my company. The scope was deviated shortly after sign from injection mold to extrusion. I have the freedom and authority as a business to furnish equipment whatever way I see fit, and the methodology, documentation, and all elements related to that are confidential. True, but also you can't just lie about that. That's 100% fraud! Right now I have you in breach for most of the NDA. If you would like to read it, go for it. You'll have ample time to see what you violated in the near future. I've gathered saved video from all the cameras of the shop. You can either continue to play dumb and wait for the police report for theft to be filed with video evidence, or contact me immediately and try to convince me otherwise. The NDA, in brief summary, prohibits you from... It prevents you from defrauding someone for hundreds of thousands of dollars is what it prevents you from doing. Just kidding, it doesn't. He lays out what Will breached, and by the way, this is complete and total nonsense. It's been months. There's been no legal action against Will, and any lawyer would absolutely laugh in Jake's face if they tried to do anything about this. Yes, I'm giving you an ultimatum. I know you hate it so much with how butthurt you got over me just trying to ask questions and simply mention to Cody I considered dropping by your house. This time I have no interest in coming to your house myself. The choice is yours. Say nothing and wait for the imminent theft charges followed by whatever course of action I deem fit, or explain your dumb ass and convince me not to. The clock is ticking. Regards. Now, I'm no lawyer, but you can't hold pressing criminal charges against someone to make them do something. That's illegal too. As well. Also, he didn't steal anything. He's helping someone who paid his payroll for years, and the backed up payroll that you didn't pay, Jake. Hey, dipshit, your ID, social, address, license plate number, and footage from all 4 cams of you stealing are being filed away in your criminal complaint tomorrow with PD. You catastrophically fucked up. My company was never gonna go anywhere, but I think you might truly be the most guy I've ever had to deal with. Of the year, crying laughing face emoji. I've always just been joking, but now I kind of feel bad because you're mentally handicapped. Oh my God, I just had an epiphany. You thought FE was actually going out of business. You took info I fed you on your trip to feed to Caleb. Literally, holy fuck, sub-zero IQ, you're actually brain dead. This is Jacob Fullerton admitting to Will that he fed info to Will to manipulate me even further to buy his company, and that it was going out of business. Are you telling me he didn't actually have any money problems? Oh my God, you mean all the money problems, all the loans I had to give, it wasn't actually real and he just admitted to it on text? No! Maybe William isn't of the year after all. Okay, so now you know about that. Let's circle back around to Jake's official statement, his incredible Twitter statement. 1, I did not know I was being labeled.
This is the juiciest shit.
Oh,
Holy crap.
there you go. You're not being labeled a scammer. You are
Video of the year.
provably a scammer. 2, there was a lot of important info missing from the video. True. That is very true. I'll let you have that, but not from this video. 3, I did not receive or pocket $1 million, and every penny we received was put into the project. The first part of that is true. I did not send Jacob Fullerton $1 million. I sent Jake over $500,000. Okay, and I spent well over $1 million, closer to $3.5 million to get this entire thing going. And a lot of those expenses were just wasted based on timelines that were provided by Jacob Fullerton. 4, I was under the impression my help was no longer needed after the source of the equipment was leaked to Caleb. That is true. We don't want to involve ourselves with scammers. 5, I did not receive any further correspondence from anyone after it was leaked 5-ish months ago. That is also not true. Here's video footage of me and Forrest calling Jake to try to get some answers about the boiler. Plus, I did text him and send him this picture of us launching, which I was very proud of that moment. I wanted to share it with everyone. 6, I did not intentionally scam Caleb. So you unintentionally scammed Caleb. Is that the implication? Or what is, I don't understand what that means. What do you guys think? Comment down below. I worked with Chinese manufacturer directly to customize equipment because the cost to manufacture ourselves was too high. That is definitely true. I received it in
I don't
1+ year reverse engineering, redesigning controls, swapping cheap components with USA ones, etc. This is demonstrably false. First off, you didn't even have the machine for an entire year before we picked it up. There's proof of that from import tariffs, things like that. You did not have the machine. You purchased it in September of 2021. We picked it up in August of 2022. Lie. You reverse engineered it and redesigned controls. By that, you mean you just took the PLC, the touchscreen that was written in Chinese, that, by the way, if you customize it with the Chinese manufacturer, which we speak to, Nicole is her name, you can have them send you the machine in English. You don't have to redesign controls. They will do it for you for a small fee. You did not redesign any controls. You took off Chinese nameplates and put on ones in English that weren't even translated correctly. By the way, thank you, Nicole, for explaining this to us. You swapped cheap components with USA ones. He's implying he swapped out cheap Chinesium with American hard muscle. This is not true. The only thing that was swapped out on my equipment that came from China, I asked Nicole and I asked Will, who did all of the swapping, was breakers and transformers. You redesigned the electrical components of a machine. Do you know how much a breaker costs? People watching, sorry for getting aggressive. Not very much. They're very cheap. It doesn't cost money, really, to redesign the electrical system of something like this, to upgrade it from 300 VAC, 320, 380, 360, whatever China uses, to 480 VAC. Believe me. And also, we still had to fix some of the electrical wiring. It wasn't correct. Caleb was told that this was designed and built by us, which was a lie. Okay, that is an admittance to fraud, though not initially. That part doesn't matter. We did not receive $1 million, but a lesser amount, and didn't pocket any of it. The statement that you didn't pocket any of it, I find just hard to believe. But let's see the excuse as to where the money went. It was put into the equipment. Purchase new controls to replace Chinese ones, redesigning electricals, etc. Overhead, warehouse, freight, rigging, machinists, etc. This stuff isn't cheap, and we paid above and beyond sticker price, the invoice price, $160,500, to manufacture to have this customized, then 3 times the cost of the equipment on new materials and making it decent. That is a complete and total, utter lie. $160,500 times 3 is a lot of money. I don't even care what that number is, but it doesn't cost that much money to upgrade wiring. It doesn't. Breakers, 20 bucks. A transformer. The transformer to power my entire building costs $3 grand. It costs maximum $10,000. Maximum. And you can have the Chinese manufacturer that you work so well with, you can have them do it for you for a small fee of like a couple grand and an additional wait of a few months. And there is no new materials, by the way. Nothing has changed on these machines. It's all quality stuff, surprisingly enough. In spite of it being Chinesium, it is good. But nothing was changed. We didn't just purchase it and send it. We spent a lot of time making it semi-decent. There is so much more to unpack here that I will put into a formal state that there is a huge misunderstanding here. There is not a huge misunderstanding. I never want to work with someone like this ever again in my entire life. And I'm grateful that this happened to me.
It's not
and
funny,
I'm grateful that I can
he's a funny
expose it
guy,
and
so.
make the best of it. And by the way, this happens all of the time. 1 out of 100 are going to be able to make it out of this and not have to file for bankruptcy. 1 out of 100. I am lucky enough to have this platform so I can make the absolute best of this and make this type of content. And I thank God that this didn't happen to anyone that I love. I did not simply scam Caleb out of a huge sum of money. I provided him equipment he thought was 100% USA custom made, but wasn't. Then never finished the install and startup.
Yeah, I don't know why he thinks like that's like okay. Like that's the huge admission of guilt.
True. That is, you know, when you really distill it down and you leave out all of the fraud and the criminal intent, that is absolutely true. Dude, all he did was overpromise and underdeliver, dude. What's the big deal, bro? I have no record of anyone trying to get in touch with me after Will quit and leaked the equipment source to Caleb. I would have given a statement if I knew the opportunity existed. Whatever I can do to make this right is #1 priority. I don't know if there is anything that can be done to make this right. My life has been skewed in a different direction because of this entire thing. I put everything into this. I was fully taken advantage of by Jacob Fullerton, and I am grateful to say that I no longer have to deal with this. We got it figured out. I have the most support I've ever had from you guys. I have a working machine that we've put, I can't even explain it. Hours and hours and hours, days, weeks of effort into retrofitting and fixing because it was a fucking piece of shit when it showed up. Not worth $160,000, let alone the amount that I paid for it. And I want to say that I'm grateful. Genuinely, I thank you guys. It's over. The scam is done, okay? It's over, and no one will ever be scammed by Jacob Fullerton ever again because you all know the truth, all right? I'm going to have a PDF you guys can go look at with every single text, everything in regards to all this. If you want to check it all yourselves.
Wow. All right.